Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Play Shantae Risky's Revenge. I'm not.
I'm Mako. We're still looking for stuff.
Yeah, we're missing a good deal of stuff. It's not a small list that we're missing. We're missing at least 3 magic jellies and 1 golden squid, according to Mako's reckoning.
It usually takes 4 to get anything done with them, so...
And then, of course, we're also missing the power-up to the mermaid, which is one of the things I'm looking for, which I think we're going to need at some point, but I'm not sure where we get it. So we're gonna do one more leg of the forest, and then we're going to go talk to Sky. Did have an interesting tale. Sort of, kind of, a little bit.
Tell us your tale, story man.
So,
again.
For those who have been watching the channel for the past couple of months, you guys know that I got my voracious reading habits back not under control by any sense of the word, but I got them back. I'm reading a lot more now than I have in the past, and I'm kind of happy with it. This is kind of one of those things that if you find me not doing something, I'm most likely reading. Which, hey, it's a thing. I'm actually reading more than I'm gaming, and I run a gaming channel, so, what have you. And also I'm exploring this dungeon because Mako said in the past there's a chance there was water in a dungeon I hadn't explored somewhere.
Well, I know that you missed at least one thing in the Hypno Barbarian's place. But
Did
that
we?
also... Yeah, there was a...
But doesn't that require I have the power-up that I don't have?
Yeah, that's what I said. But that specific one required you to have that particular power-up.
Yeah.
I can't remember if there's any one in any of the other dungeons that might.
Well, we'll explore, we'll find out. Because there's only 2 other dungeons I have to explore. It's not going to be the Battle Tower. We know that. Because the Battle Tower had nothing in it.
Right.
Did I ever go up here? Yes, okay. So... One thing that I kind of enjoy is a book with a history behind it. Now, when I say that, I don't mean like, this book took years to write, and J.K. Rowling wrote it on a napkin at a diner when she was 12, or I forget what the Harry Potter history is. But I like a story with history behind it, and the best example I can give to that, apart from the one I'm about to tell, is the story, The Positronic Man. Mick, are you familiar with the Positronic Man?
I feel like I should be, but I don't remember.
So the Positronic Man is an Isaac Asimov short story that was actually not written by him, from what I recall. It was written by one of his co-authors. And are you familiar with the movie Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams?
Yes, I haven't watched it, but I do know of it.
It's the short story that's based on.
Okay.
So... Back when Bicentennial... Okay, that was not what I wanted to do, but fine. When Bicentennial Man came out, I was enraptured. I have always been a huge fan of Robin Williams. And that story just did, in a lot of ways, a really good thing. I thought the storytelling was good. The characters were fantastic. I'm a big fan of the movie. And back when the movie came out, my dad was still alive. And he was a big fan of the movie, too. So, one day, we're watching the movie, and we notice in the credits something I had not noticed before, and that says, based on the book, The Positronic Man by Isaac Asimov. So, all of a sudden, I was amazed. I was like, wait, there's a book? I like reading. Maybe I should find this book. How do I find this book? Tell me how to find this book, oh Master of Ceremonies. Hey, would you look at that? There's water. So, we went looking for the book. Turns out it had been out of print for years. Like, long, long periods of time. So I went, oh, well, that sucks. So on came the hunt. Now, keep in mind, when I say the hunt, I mean I was kind of idly looking for the book. Not really focused on it. I would forget about it for years at a time. But I was looking for the book. So, a couple years passed. No such luck. Hey, jelly.
Oh, well, that's one of your missing magic jams.
There's 1 of 3. So I was looking for the book. No such luck, couldn't find anything. So fast forward a number of years, because I was like 14 when my dad died. So a couple years later, my uncle gave me a gift card to Barnes & Noble. And, I had not thought about, well, maybe I should do this digitally. Like, that wasn't something that really came to mind. But then I thought, you know what, let me look. I didn't feel like going into the store, so I said, let me look at the Barnes & Noble website and just see what they have. And all of a sudden, I saw a section that said, used books. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Let me go look to see what's there. And kind of on some whim, I looked up the Positronic Man. And lo and behold, someone had it, was willing to send a still good condition copy with dust cover and everything. Now, keep in mind, I believe a hurricane destroyed that copy, and I'm very upset about that, but that did happen. So, is this just the way back? Yes, okay. But I ended up getting the copy of the book. And the book was interesting. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was fairly short. And it didn't quite have the same character and charm that the movie did. It was more along the lines of a fairy tale. Very quick things, ending very quickly. And not a lot of character growth. Didn't quite follow the same story arc, but it was really enjoyable. And it felt like the end of a quest. And I mean Paladin-style quest. Like, I finally have accomplished something I set out to do years ago, and I found this book. That's kind of the feeling I had. And it's not very many things that I can say that I have done that with. You know, very many, can you go back in here? Is this a place you can go? No? Okay, well, that's the boss. It's not very many things you can do that with. So, I don't, have very many books that this came up with. There's not very many that I had, like, this sudden hunting for. But one I did, and this was something that came up from literally when I was in 6th grade. That was a long time ago. So, a girl in my class was reading this just gigantic book. Now, keep in mind, we're in 6th grade, so obviously we're not reading these, we're not reading tomes. We're not, you're not going to find, the collective works of blank in our hands. You're not going to see the collective works of William Shakespeare. Like, we're reading, fuck, what do you read when you're in 6th grade nowadays?
Harry Potter?
Yeah, Animorphs, I guess, was maybe what we were looking at back then. And I was never into that, so that's the best I'll say about that. But she was reading this gigantic book, and it was fairly simple. The cover was just this odd sky blue, and it just showed a picture of a woman in armor leaning off a horse and attacking 3 or 2 wolves in water. And that was all that I had, was just that description. And I remember asking her if she liked it, and she was pretty into the book. And so I ended up looking it up, and the name of the book was The Deed of Paxinarion, which I'm going to be somewhat surprised if anybody who watches this video recognizes it.
I know I don't.
So that was another one of those games that took me. I have no idea where I'm going at this point, by the way. That was another one of those books that took me forever and a day to find, to go hunt it down. Eventually I found it at Barnes & Noble. Like, it was there, but it was like one of those, I had trouble finding it and getting it in stock. So, hunted it down, and I guess back in the day I read it. Now, keep in mind, this is a fairly large book. We're talking about, like, it's actually 3 books in one omnibus, is what I understand. But, it's... A second here, I'll actually look up the page count, but this thing's long. That's the point I'm making. And I guess back in the day, sometime when I was around that age, I read it too. But, god damn it. Recently I've been on a kick of reading some of the old books that I still remember and trying to say, hey, was this, were the rose-colored glasses on, or was this as enjoyable as I remember it being? So I looked this one up, and lo and behold, I do all my reading on my phone. I do the Amazon download stuff. So I was looking, I was going, it's always entertaining for me to figure out what does Kindle actually have. Achievement unlocked old money bags. I've maxed out my money counter.
You're in the money, you're in the money.
Apparently it really hurts to dive into coinage. So I'm not going to Scrooge McDuck my way out of this. So, but I was amazed that Amazon had it. It was cheap. So I decided, hey, let me reread that. And having finished it, I'm trying to decide how I feel. It's one of those types of reads. Because the story is not simple, but it is straightforward, if that makes sense. So, the story follows a girl called Paxinarion Dorthinsdaughter in a, I guess you'd call it high fantasy. I think that's the word you'd use here. In her world, she's a sheep farmer's daughter, so very kind of humble beginnings. And she's told by, I think, one of her older brothers, because she doesn't want to wed, she doesn't want to be a farm girl, basically. That's not her goal. And one of her brothers tells her that if she does things right... Where the hell am I? If she does things right, she could end up being a mercenary. And that could... Hello? Aw. Hello. Okay, jewels, stuff, great, super. She could end up being a mercenary, and that was her goal. And she had in her head the mental image of, you know, the farm girl, her, eventually becoming a paladin with a magical sword, and you know, that would be that was her goal, to be that. And so the story kind of follows her as she goes through trials and tribulations. Hey, look, it's another power-up. Through trials and tribulations, as she basically goes through her life, is the long and short of it. She joins a mercenary company. She, you know, fights with them for some time. She, you know, there's loss. There are people that she cares about die. You know, it happens. And the book makes it very clear the first couple times this happens that this is the life of a mercenary. You know, this is gonna. Have you noticed that I took no damage there?
Hey,
that was weird. She just kind of follows her life as a mercenary. Eventually, she leaves the mercenary company, goes on her own, and the story starts to pick up. So, what I found especially interesting about the book was that... So I guess before I say this, what I need to preface this is that I took a couple of different literature classes in college, and one of them was specifically fairy tales. Now, that's going to sound like, you know, a weird college thing, but you may not understand that fairy tales have a weird style to themselves, especially noticeable if you ever read a modern fairy tale. Things happen to heroes that never matter later on. To give you an example of that is something like, what's an example? Aladdin or Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, if you like. Things happen to Aladdin over time. I have no idea where I am or what I'm doing at this point. I'm kind of lost in my dungeon now.
You were looking through the dungeon.
Is this where I'm going? No. Oh, there it is. Okay. So if you think about Aladdin, he gets the magic lamp from the Cave of Wonders, and nothing ever happens in the Cave of Wonders again. That's over now. We don't go back there anymore. We get the magic carpet. He uses the magic carpet. Okay, we don't need the magic carpet anymore. We make our wishes. Okay, that never gets resolved. The loss of Alibaba never matters to anybody. It's just gone. He's just Aladdin. Things that happen in the past in a fairy tale don't matter. There's no permanency. Now, this doesn't sound like a big deal, but go read a modern fairy tale. A great one that I highly suggest is Neil Gaiman's. Is it Gaiman? Gaiman? I think it's Gaiman. Right?
Gaiman. I've heard it pronounced both. Well, okay. I pronounced it both ways.
So,
I don't know.
Neil Gaiman's Stardust, which got turned into a major motion picture, which was only awesome because it cast Robert De Niro as a gay pirate. But no, seriously, go watch. It's awesome. Robert De Niro, gay pirate. I think he cross-dressed, if I remember correctly. But if you read the story, you'll find that a lot of things happen that have no permanence on the character. They're never referred to again, no matter how important it was. And that's a thing that fairy tales do. Okay, waste of time. That's the thing that fairy tales do. And the book kind of did that. There were moments in the book that I sat there and I said, okay, that's really important. We're going to acknowledge that later on, right? Nope. And it doesn't feel like like with some writers, with some stories, it feels like plot hole central, right? Well, that seemed like that was important. Are we going to go back to that? Nope. Writer forgot. In this, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like the writer is literally saying, nah, that wasn't that important, honestly. Like, you thought there was a big deal there, but it really isn't. But it's one of those things that happens several times, and you end up wondering, does that matter? And then what happens later on is eventually there's a little bit of Xanatos gambiting going on throughout the entire story, which explains some but not all of it, which ended up working very well. But what was kind of most striking to me and this has happened a couple of times, is apparently I have a habit of reading when I am exhausted. And it's not quite in one ear and out the other, but I will never remember what the hell I read at the time. It's not that it didn't make an impression on me. It probably did. It's that I don't remember that I read it. So there was a point in the book where I'm like, okay, I remember this part. I have no idea what happens next. I remember this part. No idea where this is going. I remember this part, and this comes next. No, that's later, apparently. It was just a really weird feeling. And it was just one of the weird feelings. By the way, we're going to keep going until I figure out what I'm doing. This is another one of those longer episodes of Shantae, apparently, where I go and waste time.
You were originally thinking of also going back to Sky.
Yeah, we're going to go back to Sky,
to remind you.
I'm probably going to make that at the start of an episode, honestly. So that'll be the start of next episode. I guess we're going to continue searching. We found one magic gem.
2 to go.
2 to go. So what was interesting is, for one example, and this doesn't sound like a big deal to some people, but for me it tends to be. Most books I read, sex doesn't happen. Isn't even mentioned. Now, this is not something that I do on purpose. It's just I found that on a lot of the literature I read, sex just doesn't occur. Now, this is not one of those like, well, Nia reads Puritan books. Apparently that's the reason. No, Harry Potter. Doesn't happen.
It's not an important
It's not important
so it
plot
doesn't
point.
come up.
Isaac Asimov. Now, this is the weird one, and I have complained about this in the past. Isaac Asimov talks about sex a lot. It comes up like a ton. We got dirty old man perving at some point in here. But what's important is it never actually happens. No, people don't do it. It's just we talk about it a lot. Discworld almost never happens to the point of humor. Like, seriously. Especially Rincewind.
I was going to say, I can name exactly one situation where it actually happens in the book, like in a book, and you
I can think of maybe 3 situations I can think of off the top of my head. One is done off screen, one's done on screen, but euphemistically.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other one. So
it occurs, but it's not important.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the other random books, but Battlefield Earth's another one of my favorite books. Sexuality gets brought up a couple times. People have kids, and that's about it. It's just this background thing. But also, the romance to the point of sex is also one of those things. It just doesn't come up. And so it's, for me, that's the norm. I don't expect to see it. I expect to see it in movies a lot. I expect to see a lot of it in television shows. I don't expect to see it in games very often, unless I'm playing a Bethesda, or not Bethesda, unless I'm playing a BioWare title, then I especially expect it to come up. But I don't expect to see it come up in games very much. I don't expect to see it, and that's about it. It comes up a lot of comics, and especially in manga, and that's about it. But, I've seen enough anime to know where this is going. Anyways, moving on. So, but that's the thing. Like, I don't expect to see it. And what's interesting is in the Dita Paxinarion, sex is almost taboo in the book. It happens, but not for our main character. And I mean ever. Like, we follow our main character's life for, I forget what it is, I'm like 6-7 years. Never happens. Ever. And it's a big deal in the book that it never happens. She even, I think it's the very tail end. You're 80% of the way through the book before she loses her virginity, and it's not her choice. That's how, and she's 28 at that point, or something, or 26, somewhere around there. And the book even makes the statement of it's a rape scene, and it's meant to be kind of harsh. And it's made a point that she never enjoyed sex, so she didn't lose anything from the rape. Like, it wasn't something she had taken from her. Which you might go, okay, that seems a little bit weird. That writer's obviously got issues. It's not a male writer. I'm gonna say that right off the bat, because I know some people will think it is. We're gonna go explore in this pool, I guess, because this is the last one we haven't done major exploration in.
I swear you've done this one already.
We did do this one already, but I want to check it again, because this is the one we didn't find the squid in.
I think this might have been one of the ones that you needed the...
Yeah, this is the one we need the power for, but I can't help but feel like maybe the power's here. I'm gonna have to go talk to Sky next episode.
Yeah, probably.
But it's one of those things, like, it's got that fairy tale-ish aspect. Things happen to the hero, they matter, and sometimes get brought up again, and in some cases are brought up again on a fairly frequent basis. But other things just, meh, didn't matter. Was really important back in the day, but like it's 3 days later and I don't really care all that much anymore. And it had this really weird feel. Yep, see, that's where I can't go. I got no, like, okay, I'm just pressing all the buttons, nothing happened, okay. So yeah, it was this really weird feel. And especially the ending. The ending was one of those, like, I remembered it, but I didn't, you know? Would you stop doing that? There we go. I remembered the ending, but I didn't. Like, I knew the ending was coming. Well, obviously, the book tells me how far I am. But I knew it was coming. I had an idea of what was about to happen, but I couldn't rightly remember. But I did remember enough that well, okay, I'm not gonna pretend like this is a big thing. It was foreshadowed like hell. But the surprise plot twist at the end was not a surprise plot twist. Like, I saw it coming, I knew exactly what was gonna happen, and I was happy because it's what I wanted to happen. But surprise plot twist happened. So it's like one of those things, like, well, I don't know how I feel about this. The book's over. I really enjoyed the book, but that's it. It's over. Now, I did learn there's a second book, and I have no idea how the hell that's going to work. But, I tend to find out. But, okay, that's going to hurt. But it's just one of those, it's one of those things. Like, this is a book that, you know, I remember a girl in a class that I was not, I was in longer ago than some of my viewers have been alive. Because of this book. And I feel so weird about the book itself. You know?
I was going to say, thanks for making me feel old now.
I'm not older than you are. Why am I doing this? Anything? Anything? That's empty. God damn it. Alright. Okay, I give up. We're going to go talk to Sky. Guys, that's gonna be it for me. That was a story. It was a weird reminiscence about a book that I finished. I do recommend the Deed of Paxenarion to anybody who likes high-ish fantasy. The world building is actually done fairly well, even though you see it through the. It's written decently well because it's a third-person narrative of Pax, but she. It's I forget the term. It's third-person imperfect, I believe what's called. You don't really usually rarely hear what other people are thinking. It doesn't follow their perspective, it's hers. And she doesn't see everything, she's not omniscient. So you kind of tend to miss stuff until the book tells you what you missed, which I think works fairly well with how the book is telling its story. The world building's good, there's a lot of very cool lore that you get to learn, lots of stuff going on. And it kind of builds into what could and may actually be, from what I understand, a kind of huge world and a lot of series of books, but I don't know all of them. So I definitely would recommend them. I will tell you that people who are kind of squeamish might want to give it a miss, though, because a lot of the stuff that happens in some of the books is kind of like dark, like bad things happen to the main character on a fairly regular basis. And bad things happen, especially at the end of the last book. And it's kind of one of those, like, I know there's some people I would not recommend the book to because they would not be able to handle it. It's one of those.
Fair enough.
But I do recommend to a lot of people. And so far, I'm kind of curious. I've only met one person since that girl who originally introduced me to the book that has actually recognized the book. And the only reason I knew they recognized the book is because they were playing a character with the same name, and I asked them, hey, is that based on this? And they went, you're damn right it was. I loved that book, and then we kind of went from there. So I'm kind of curious if anybody else knows it. So if you do, please leave a comment. I'm curious. And we're going to break. And when we come back, we're going to actually go talk to Sky, because apparently that's what I have to do. We'll see y'all soon.